Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in the case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. We're in Atwater, but through the course of my bid, I dip and dab in almost everything. And just like anybody else in there, I like to get high. I smoke cigarettes, I smoke weed, amongst other things. I'd like to tell you that I was able to do my time, that my mind was strong enough to be able to do it without any substance. But I'm not here to portray you that I'm some type of any type of dude. I'm just here to share you my experience and take you through the things that I've gone through. Sitting there with a 26-year sentence, it weighs heavy on you. For me to be able to get through the time, I had to leave the street behind. But not just leave the street behind, I don't think I had the fortitude to be able to just sit there day in and day out. So I try to find escape as often as I can. Whether that's hanging out with the homies, playing sports, keeping myself busy, or being intoxicated. Before I used to just drink and smoke, all that stuff was plentiful. But when we was in Atwater, after the homies killed the police, having alcohol was almost like having a weapon. They'll lock you up if you were drinking, if you were making it, anything that has to do with alcohol, they were sitting your ass in the shoe for 3 to 6 months. But inside the penitentiary, whatever you're looking for, you're gonna find plenty of it. And while I was there, I developed a habit. And it wasn't a habit towards any particular type of drugs. It was just a habit of just trying to escape the environment as often as I could. And I run the poker table. I have my hands in different avenues, so when people owed me money and stuff, sometimes they bring something else for me to pay for their debt. And I accept everything. I'd rather have something that I can turn around and make money off of it, or that I can use it myself, than to sweat some dude for the money that he owed me. But while I was in Atwater, I was on the hot list. The hot list means that the authorities, the SIS, feels that you're doing a lot, but they can't catch you. So they put you on the hot list where they monitor your mail, they monitor your phone call, they kick in your doors to try to catch you slipping with something. I went through all this stuff. But being in the environment I'm in, I know there's cameras everywhere, not just the ones on the ceilings and the walls, but the ones on 2 feet. So I'm always careful with the things that I do. At this time in particular, I'm on visiting restriction I'm on visiting restriction and commissary restriction. In there you can spend up to $310 a month in commissary. But being on restriction, I can only spend $25 a month. Then I was on visiting restriction. I was on visiting restriction for 4 years. So the next time I get a shot, especially if it has anything to do with a dirty, my restriction is gonna double. And, for me, I couldn't justify that to my wife that comes to see me every 3 to 4 months. I can't tell her, hey, you can't come and visit me anymore because I just got 4 more years of restriction. Right here at this time, I can get 1 visit every 6 months after request for a hardship visit, a special visit. Because my family lives in Utah. My wife in particular lives in Utah, and I'm out in California. So every 6 months, I'm able to make a request for a visit. And as long as I'm not getting in trouble through the course of that time, the administration would grant me that. So my wife is coming in a few weeks. And I'm trying to do everything that I can to make sure I stay out of trouble, make sure I stay out of the shoes so that I can see my wife. But on this particular day, before the yard closed, some guy came and paid us with a gram of meth. Shit. I like to get high. I just UA a couple of weeks ago. I'm on a hot list, so they UA me every month. But sometimes they'll double back to try to always catch me slipping. So I went and did a line. I got high. My freaking brain is racing. I'm zooming. And we go in and lock down at 4 o'clock count. Every day we clock down at 4 o'clock count, where they count all the inmates, call into region, and the door doesn't open back up till every inmate in the penitentiary is accounted for. Well, they come through and they do their count. When they finish their counting, I'm just kicking back on my bunk, tweaking, painting. At this time, I was working on a painting project for my wife. It took me, long story short about the painting, it took me like a year to finish it. I'm not a natural artist. I don't paint, but I'm trying to do it because, you spend a lot of time in your cell, and to keep yourself busy, you got to find certain things to do. I read a lot, and the times I draw is when it's like holidays or my wife's birthdays and stuff like that. But I'm working on a painting. Well, while I'm sitting there painting, there's a knock on my door. Boom, boom, boom. I look out and it's the CO. I walk to the door and the CO tells me, hey, you got a UA after count. My heart dropped. I had a dummy look on my face. But I don't give myself away. I'm just like, all right. I'm like, damn, what the fuck? Like, all these thoughts starts running through my head like, man, there ain't no way I can piss clean. I just did a line 30 minutes ago. And if I go over there and piss in that bottle, I'm hit. They're going to lock me up. I'm going to miss my visit. And for me, it's not about missing the visit or going to a shoe, but it's about having to explain it to my wife and then hearing the disappointment in her voice that I'm not doing everything that I'm supposed to do because she's out there doing everything she's supposed to do to help our relationship, to be there for me. So for me, there was no way I'm going to let it go down like that. So as soon as they opened the door, I ran upstairs to this white boy named Beaver. Me and Beaver, we got kind of cool. He came over from Victorville. And a lot of people liked him, until he fucked up, which I'll share that story in a later episode. But at this time, everything was cool. Just a few days ago, he came down to my cell and showed me this catheter. It's a tube, that they stole from or got, however they got it from medical. It's a tube about this long, about as thick as my pinky. And I'm like, what the fuck is that? He's like, oh man, if you need to flush, you can use this. Like we have a shampoo bottle that we empty out. And they hooked up a tip to it. So they fill it up so that the idea was you push this tube up your penis hole. You push it all the way in your penis until it reaches your bladder. And when it reaches your bladder, you'll see your urine come out the other end. Then you empty your bladder. Once you empty your bladder, you hook up the shampoo bottle that's filled with water, hook it up to it, then you hold it up and you slowly squeeze the water into your bladder. Like I said, I don't want to be on the phone telling my wife that I just lost my visit for another 4 years. That would make it 8 years. So I'm like, hey, you got that catheter? He's like, yeah, I got it. What's up? I said, man, come down to my cell. through the course of my time going through transit, I have to strip out for the COs. I have to sit there, raise my arm, they check my armpit, raise my nut sack. I'm not circumcised, so I got to pull my skin back for them, turn around, lift up the bottom of my feet, bend down, spread my butt cheek, and cough. And I have to do that anytime a staff requests it. If the staff thinks that I'm hiding something, he can come and grab me, take me to the holding tank, and strip me out. Or if the dude's on some freak shit and it's a piece of shit, they just want to see some booty or some weenie, he can come and strip us out. So through the course of my incarceration, my modesty has been thrown out the window. I've stand there with rows and rows of dudes, all butt naked, getting stripped out for the COs. So I didn't really have any self-conscious or modesty or anything have to do with that. I just know I can't get another I can't lose my visit for another 4 years. So I told him, hey, come down to my cell. At this time, my cellie is Semi Heffa. He's a Tongan kid out of Seattle. He's in my cell. He see Beaver come down to my cell. He's like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, shit, I'm finna try to freaking clean out my freaking bladder. He's like, oh, hell no, I'm out of here. So he goes out the cell. So it's me and Beaver. We sitting there. I strip butt naked because it's gonna get messy. I put a towel on the floor. I'm sitting on the toilet butt naked. And he hands me this freaking hose. It's a hose. I'm telling you, it's about this long, about as thick as my pinky. So we go get some triple antibiotics. I always keep triple antibiotics, scissors, and a sewing kit in my cell. The sewing kit might be needed outside of just patching up your clothes. It might be needed to patch up a wound. Because like the people like me, if something happens, we don't go to the police. We sit in there and tape each other up in the cell, clean each other's wound in the cell. And later on in other episodes, you'll see. So I'm in there, butt naked. He hands me this tube. We lube it up with the triple antibiotics. And I'm like, what are you supposed to do? He goes, man, you got to put it in your pee hole and keep pushing it in until it reaches your bladder. I mean, just think about that. Like, as soon as I put that tip to my tip, my shit shrivel up. Like, it's like telling me, no. But I don't have a choice. I'm not trying to lose my visit. So I man up and I pushed it in. And I'm like, damn. And I slowly push it in. I push it in. And I got halfway through. I know my bladder's there already, right? But I'm like, man, he's like, no, you got to keep going. When you hit the bladder, you'll know because the urine will start coming out and you'll feel it. But I'm like, man, I ain't got that much. Like, where the hell is this hose going? I tell you, the hose is about this long. Like this long. I pushed that bitch in until it was only the tip of it out. As soon as I pushed it in, I can hear, something like not pop inside me, but kind of like open up and the urine would just start flowing out into the toilet. So I'm holding myself because you don't want it to move around because that shit is a tight fit and it's scraping the inside. So I'm holding it and Beaver is holding the water bottle and he's over there trying to twist the cap because we got a cap hooked up at the end of it. He's trying to twist the cap onto the water bottle and I'm like, hey, you're moving too much, hey. So we finally get it in. He's holding the water up while I'm holding the tube and myself and he's squeezing. He's squeezing it until my bladder fills up. Now, once my bladder fills up, I have to remove the catheter. So I got to slowly pull that shit back out. And I'm cringing with every little, I'm pulling it like a quarter of an inch at a time, because you can't just rip that shit out, man. It's a very sensitive spot. So I'm pulling it out, and finally that bitch comes out, and I push my bladder, and I piss all the water out. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking I'm done. He's like, no, you got to do it again. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, you got to do it again. I grit my teeth, and I go back through the same process. Freaking, just slowly inserting that thing in my penis hole, and then just slowly pushing it. I can feel it scraping inside. If you've never done it, I don't advise you to try it. The shit hurts. Push it in. And the same process. I piss it out. I rinsed my bladder out twice already. Now, after the second time, I'm thinking, hey, I'm good, man. So let's go. He goes, nah, now you got to fill it up with water. I said, what do you mean? He goes, nah, you got to have something to piss when you go. So I had to do it a third time. I went through the process again a third time, but this time, when you piss straight water, the CO that's doing the piss, he might be suspicious. He might let you go back to your unit because you came out clean, but he might be suspicious and then try to double back and call you back an hour later or whatever to make you piss again. So we took this Goya pack. It's a seasoning pack, okay? It's a seasoning pack that you put on your food, but it makes your food really, like if you put it on your hand, it stains your hand orange. I didn't put the whole pack in, don't trip. I only, took a little bit, sprinkled it into the water bottle just to turn it orange a little bit. So when it turned orange, I went and proceed to do it again. And while I'm doing this, Beaver's on the floor, holding the water bottle. I'm on the toilet, butt naked, holding myself in the tube. My celly's coming in and out, and my homeboy Jay out of Seattle, he's coming in and out just to see the process. The homie Bryson, he comes in and takes a look too, like I'm just there butt naked while I got people coming in and out of my cell, right? But like I said, my modesty is out the window, it's gone. My only concern is that I'm not gonna catch another dirty because I only had one dirty in the penitentiary, and that was for marijuana. But I'm not willing to risk catching another dirty and lose my visit for another 4 years. Because my visit is important to me. But you might ask, oh, well, if your visit is so important to you, why are you participating in all these other extracurricular activities to risk that? My mentality is never that. It's just, I'm living day to day. I'm trying to get through. When the doors crack open at 6 o'clock, I'm trying to make it through to 9 o'clock. And I'm really not conscious of the outside world or anything around me, but just how to be able to make it through safe, make it through alive, and make it through the way I want to. But then sometimes shit like this happen, and I go into a little panic mode, but somehow, some way, I always try to figure how to get around it. So I put it on in there for the third time, pull it out for the third time, and my bladder is full, and I feel like I gotta piss right now, right then. I'm like, I'm done. They already called chow. It's after 4 o'clock, so they're running chow. They've been called my unit to chow, but we've been in the room doing what we're doing. So as soon as I'm done, I grab my ID, head down to the visiting room where they do the UA. As soon as I get there, I'm walking. While I'm walking, I'm clenching myself so I don't freaking empty the shit out all over my pants because it's just full of water. I run down there, I go up to the desk, and there's like 5-6 people in line waiting to UA, and I'm like, hey man, you guys mind if I go before you? And everybody in the penitentiary, everybody in Atwater knew who I was. I have a rapport with everybody. They're like, what's up? I say, man, I gotta go. Like, when I tell them that, they already know what's going on because we all do the same shit, try to clean our system or whatever when these police try to catch us slipping. So they're like, yeah, you can go. And the CO looks at me and goes, you can piss? I said, yes, I can piss right now. I went in the bathroom, filled up their water bottle. Filled up their little cup. I could have filled up a water bottle. I filled up their cup, pissed the rest out in the urinal, and left. They dipped it. Everything was clean. I made it. I didn't really think anything of it. For the next 2 weeks, I was pissing blood. Every time I pissed, I've never had any STDs, so I don't know how all that stuff feels, but I know some of the symptoms of certain things. Tell you, is a burning, it's painful. Man, every time I try to piss, like my whole body would cringe up because I'm wounded. That shit's scraped. And I'm pissing blood for like 2 weeks. And that shit scared the shit out of me, But I got over the hurdle of them trying to catch me slipping. But fast forward, I met this white boy, Jason from Texas. Me and him became really good friends. And he was one of my partners on the poker table. Him and another white dude from Oregon. They call him Brazil because I guess he spoke Spanish and everything. He looked kind of like he got some culture in him. But he's a respectable dude. He's a cool individual. And one day, me and Jason were just talking about, just different places we've been and who we know. And he was like, hey, man, you was in Lompoc? Just to make, I know I've been saying it wrong the whole time. But he was asking me, hey, was you in Lompoc? I said, yeah, I was in Lompoc. He goes, you know a guy named Jimmy Harris? It's another white dude. I said, yeah, Jimmy Harris, man. We're good friends. He goes, man, he died, right? When he said that, like, all the wind went out of me. I got to know Jimmy Harris when I was in Lompoc in Victorville. He's been down a long time. And he was a respectable dude, but he likes to get high. And he already did over 24 years at the time that this conversation had happened with me and Jason, between me and Jason. And he only had 2 years left. He had like a 22, 23-year sentence. But when he was, but during that time, he ended up catching a body. He ended up killing a black dude over something and got some more time. So it pushed his time up to like 30 years. But he was almost done. He had like 2 years to go. And he, so when he told me that he had died, like I said, he was, we became good friends. And you can't really receive and hear those information without it affecting you. I don't care who the fuck you are. If you heard about somebody that you knew, that you care about, passed away, it takes the wind out of you. So I asked him, I was like, well, I'm thinking he got himself in a situation and got killed. But he told me, nah, he was trying to beat a UA. And he did the catheter thing. He stuck that little tube up his weenie to try to clean out his bladder. But while he was doing that, when he did that, he caught an infection. And the infection from that killed him. And I just had done that. Just a couple of weeks prior to this conversation, I just had done that. When I heard that, it scared me because, one, the same thing could have happened to me. And two, it's a fucked up way to go. After you're doing all this time and now you're just trying to beat a UA and you lose your life over that. Not everybody gets killed in prison. A lot of people die in a lot of different ways. But like I say, it doesn't matter. And I repeat it all the time. It doesn't matter how much time you get, how much time you're doing. When you're behind that wall, there's no telling what's gonna kill you. It could be somebody with a knife, could be a freak accident, could be illness, sickness, infection, or it could be yourself. There's plenty of situations where people realize that they weren't going to be able to do this time, where they feel like they don't want to do this time, and they put a rope around their neck. You know, even though I share stories with you of some goofy stuff, some fun stuff, at the end of the day, the penitentiary is a miserable place. It's a place full of condemned men. It's a place that's filled with hopelessness and dread. You know, part of my episodes that I share with you guys is not to glorify any of the violence or anything that goes on in there. My objective is to let you know that this is not the place you want to be, man. You know, everybody says that you're the one doing the time. But in reality, you're not doing that time alone. You know, the time that you spent in there, your family feels it too. Your parents miss you, especially when there's a special occasion, whether it's their birthday or your birthday, Christmas, all the different holidays, or just when they got a family gathering and they're laughing and joking and having a good time, but when they look when they look around the room, they cannot help but notice that there's an empty space, that there's an empty presence, that where you should have been. Again, I'm not here to tell you how to live your life, man. But maybe we can take a breath, see the picture, see the big picture. There's really nothing out here that's worth getting yourself put away for a couple decades. Welcome to the USP.